On July 19th, 2026, at a conference stage in Shanghai, a Chinese tech giant said something that should have made Silicon Valley nervous. They said their new AI model was the second most powerful on Earth, not the 10th, not top 5, second, behind only one company, Anthropic. And the model behind that claim is called Qwen 3.8. But here's the question nobody's asking yet. Is this actually true, or is it the biggest bluff in the AI race so far? Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what Alibaba built, why they built it right now, what's really going on behind the scenes with their own investments, and what all of this means for who actually wins this race. Let's rewind 2 months first. Back then, Alibaba's flagship model was called Qwen 3.7 Max. It was good, genuinely good. It scored over 92% on a brutal reasoning test called GPQA Diamond, a test made of PhD-level science questions that most humans can't even attempt. It scored 80% on a coding benchmark that simulates real software engineering work, and nearly 70% on a test that checks whether an AI can operate a computer terminal like a real engineer would. Those aren't toy numbers. Those are the kind of scores that get enterprises calling. But Qwen 3.7 Max had one massive weakness. It couldn't see. No images, no video, no documents. Just text in, text out. And in a world where AI is expected to read a screenshot, watch a demo video, or scan a scanned PDF contract, a text-only model is already behind before it even starts the race. So what changed in 2 months? Why did Alibaba suddenly rush out a brand new flagship when 3.7 Max was still performing well? The answer has a name. And it's not even Alibaba's own product. It's Kimi K3. A few weeks before Qwen 3.8 showed up, a smaller Chinese lab called Moonshot AI released Kimi K3, a massive open-source model with 2.8 trillion parameters. At the time, it was the largest open model on the entire planet. Developers everywhere started downloading it, fine-tuning it, building startups on top of it. And here's the twist most people watching this story don't know. Alibaba isn't just watching Moonshot from the sidelines like a competitor. Alibaba actually owns a 36% stake in Moonshot AI. They are, in a very real sense, competing against a company they partly own. So why would Alibaba rush to one-up a business they've already invested millions into? Because Moonshot wasn't just winning attention anymore. It was winning money. By June 2026, Moonshot had crossed $300 million in annual recurring revenue, and was already lining up to go public within 6 months. Kimi K3 wasn't a viral open-source curiosity anymore. It had become a real, fast-growing business, one that was starting to pull developers and enterprise customers straight out of Alibaba's own cloud ecosystem. So Alibaba did what Alibaba always does when threatened. They went bigger. Now, let's actually talk numbers, because they're staggering. Qwen 3.8, internally called Qwen 3.8-Max, packs 2.4 trillion parameters. To put that into perspective, that's more raw scale than almost every model on Earth, with one exception, Kimi K3 itself. Which means Alibaba just built the second largest publicly known AI model on the planet in a matter of weeks, seemingly as a direct answer to a company they part own. But scale isn't even the most interesting part of this release. Here's what actually makes Qwen 3.8 different from every previous Qwen flagship. This is the first Qwen model over 1 trillion parameters that can actually see images, documents, and according to developers close to the project, likely video and even speech, though Alibaba hasn't officially confirmed the complete list yet. Why does that one detail matter so much more than the parameter count? Because a model that can only read text is a chatbot. It answers questions. But a model that can see a spreadsheet, read a screenshot of broken code, watch a product demo, and understand a scanned invoice, that's not a chatbot anymore. That's an employee. And that is exactly the kind of AI enterprises around the world are desperate to hire at scale right now. Here's where the story gets interesting. And honestly, a little suspicious. Alibaba's own team posted that Qwen 3.8 is, quote, one of the most powerful models available today, and they went even further, claiming it's second only to Fable 5, referring to Anthropic's frontier model. Second only to the best lab in the world. That is an enormous, headline-grabbing claim. So naturally, you'd expect proof, right? Benchmark tables, independent testing, a model card showing exactly how it stacks up. Did they publish any of that? No, not one single official benchmark score. No model card, no third-party verification, just a bold claim posted on social media, timed perfectly to ride the exact same news cycle as Kimi K3's headlines. One industry analyst put it bluntly when asked about this. When a benchmark claim can't actually be verified, there's a massive incentive to simply say you've beaten everyone, because the claim alone generates the headlines and the buzz, whether or not it turns out to be true later. So is Qwen 3.8 really that good? Or is this a marketing move, dressed up to look like a scientific one? The honest answer is, we don't know yet, and that uncertainty itself tells you something important about how this entire race is actually being fought in 2026. But let's assume just for a moment that there's real substance behind the hype. What is Qwen 3.8 actually supposed to be good at, according to Alibaba themselves? They say it should outperform its own predecessor specifically in 4 areas: coding, full-stack development, data analysis, and office workflows. In other words, this isn't a model built to write poetry or chat casually about your day. It's built to replace knowledge work. Software engineers, data analysts, the office employees who spend 8 hours a day inside spreadsheets and internal company tools. Does that sound familiar? It should, because that's exactly the battlefield every single frontier AI lab on Earth is fighting over right now. Not chatbots, labor replacement, because that is where the real money is. Now here's a twist that could change everything, and it's the part almost nobody covering this story is digging into. Alibaba says Qwen 3.8 is going to be released as open weights soon. No date given, no license confirmed yet, just a promise, posted publicly. Why would that promise matter so much? Because look at Alibaba's own history here. Qwen 3.5 and Qwen 3.6 were released as open models, but Qwen 3.7, their previous flagship, was kept completely closed. If Alibaba actually follows through this time and opens up Qwen 3.8's weights to the public, it would be the largest open weight model Alibaba has ever released in its history. And here's why that would matter more strategically than even Kimi K3's open release. Alibaba's cloud platform already has a massive built-in developer ecosystem, millions of businesses already building on Alibaba Cloud. If they drop a bigger, more capable open model directly into that existing user base for free, while Moonshot is still trying to convert Kimi K3's hype into paying subscribers, they could pull the rug out from under their own investment. Overnight. On purpose. Is that actually the plan here? A calculated internal power move disguised as innovation? Or is this just another promise designed purely to keep the hype train running while the real release date keeps slipping? We genuinely don't know yet. But it's worth watching closely. And speaking of hype, let's circle back to Kimi K3, the model that started all of this in the first place. Just this past week, Moonshot AI admitted something remarkable. Demand for Kimi K3 has been so intense that they physically cannot keep up with the compute required to serve everyone trying to use it. They've had to pause individual subscriptions entirely, just to manage the overwhelming load on their servers. Let that sink in for a second. A Chinese open source model became so popular, so fast, that the company behind it had to shut the doors on new customers just to survive its own success. That is not a company struggling to find users. That is a company drowning in them. So while Alibaba is racing to out-hype Kimi K3 with bigger parameter counts and bolder unverified claims, Moonshot is quietly proving something far more dangerous to competitors. That the demand is real, it's massive, and it isn't slowing down anytime soon. There's actually a smaller story hiding inside all of this that shows exactly how fast this ecosystem moves. Back on July 14th, just days before Qwen 3.8 was even announced, an independent developer released something called Bonsai 27B. It was a miniaturized version of Alibaba's own Qwen 3.6 model, shrunk down so aggressively that its memory footprint dropped to under 4 gigabytes, small enough to run entirely on a single iPhone. No cloud required, no subscription, no internet connection needed. Think about what that actually means. While two giant labs are racing each other with trillion-parameter flagship models and unverified benchmark claims, independent developers are quietly taking those same models and squeezing frontier-level intelligence directly onto consumer phones. That's the part of this race most headlines completely ignore. It's not just two companies at the top, it's an entire ecosystem moving in parallel at every scale, all at once. So, step back for a second and ask yourself what all of this actually tells us about the US-China AI race in the summer of 2026. It tells us China isn't fighting this battle with one single company standing alone. It's fighting it as an entire ecosystem: Alibaba, Moonshot, independent developers building on top of both of them, sometimes even competing directly against their own investments, just to stay one step ahead of each other. It tells us the question of who's really in second place has stopped being about careful, peer-reviewed, verified benchmarks, and has started being about who can make the loudest, boldest claim at exactly the right moment in the news cycle. And it tells us something genuinely uncomfortable for anyone still betting against China's AI industry. Even if Qwen 3.8's claim of being second only to Fable 5 turns out to be exaggerated or completely unverifiable, the underlying trend behind it is not exaggerated at all. 2 trillion-plus parameter models from two separate Chinese labs, both racing toward multimodal, agentic, enterprise-ready AI in the exact same 2-month window. That is not a coincidence. That is not a fluke. That is a system built from the ground up to move fast, take marketing risks in public, and iterate live in front of the entire world. The Qwen team themselves said their model is evolving daily, inviting users to test it and, in their own words, tell them what breaks. So here is the real question I want to leave you with today. If Alibaba is willing to make an unverified claim just to stay in the headlines right next to Anthropic, what happens the day one of these Chinese models can actually prove it? What happens the moment a real, independently verified benchmark table gets published and the claim turns out to be true? Because right now, we are still living in the era of claims. But the parameter counts keep climbing, the multimodal gap keeps closing, and the timeline between announcements keeps shrinking from months down to weeks down to days. The real story here was never really about whether Qwen 3.8 is truly second only to Fable 5 today. It's that we are watching a live preview of what first place might actually look like, sooner than anyone in Washington seems willing to admit. If you want to understand this race before it's already decided for you, make sure you're subscribed, because this is moving faster than almost anyone is reporting on it.